Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss regarding one gland which is very multitasking in action, that is none other than our pancreas. So our pancreas performs both the function of being exocrine gland and endocrine gland. So this exocrine part of pancreas mainly focuses on the digestive action, and this endocrine part secretes mainly hormones, for example insulin, that we will be discussing later regarding both the exocrine and endocrine action of pancreas. So this is our pancreas, and today we are going to study regarding that in detail. And here we can see our spleen situated near the tail of pancreas, and here we can see around the head of pancreas like this. So pancreas is a soft, lobulated and elongated organ, you can see here. And regarding the location, this pancreas lies more or less transversely across the posterior abdominal wall, and the level of pancreas is at L1 and L2 vertebra level, L1 and L2. Now regarding the size and shape of the organ, the shape of the organ is J-shaped or retard shaped, and length of the pancreas varies from 50 to 20 centimeter. Then the pancreas is 2.5 to 3.8 centimeter broad, and it is 1.2 to 1.8 centimeter thick. So this is all regarding the exact size of the pancreas, and this is important in MCQ point. Like in case of length it is 15 to 20 centimeter, and in case of broadness it is 2.5 to 3.8 centimeter, and thickness 1.2 to 1.8 centimeter. So now regarding the different parts of pancreas. So first comes our head of pancreas here. So this is the head of pancreas, and in case head of pancreas we have one process in the inferior aspect of the head, that is uncinate process. And then comes the most constricted part of the pancreas, that is none other than neck of pancreas. And then comes the body of pancreas, and at last is the tail of pancreas here. And this one is body. And here I have to mention regarding one projection which is present in the body of the pancreas above the superior border, that is this projection. So this projection is also called as tuber omental. So this is it regarding the parts of pancreas. One is head, then the second one is neck, and third one body, and fourth one tail of pancreas. So now regarding the head of pancreas, in case of head of pancreas we have three borders. One is superior one, the second one is inferior one, and the third one is right lateral border. And in case of surface, we can see the anterior surface, and the thing beside it is the posterior surface. And at last is the uncinate process, which arises from the lower and left part of the head, and it moves towards the left side. So now let's see regarding the anterior relation of head of pancreas. The first one is duodenum, and this is transverse colon, and this is a part of jejunum, and here comes the superior mesenteric vessels. So this forms the anterior relation of head of pancreas. And this image is regarding the posterior relation of head of pancreas. So here comes our aorta, here comes our left renal vein, and here comes our right renal vein, and both of this combine to form the inferior vena cava, which you can see here. So this is our inferior vena cava, and here you can see a green structure, that is none other than our bile duct. This one is none other than right crest of diaphragm. So these are all the posterior relation of head of pancreas. One is aorta, then comes the right crest of diaphragm, and then comes the inferior vena cava, where it is drained by the left and right renal vein, and then comes the bile duct here. So these are all the posterior relation of head of pancreas. So now regarding the anterior relation of neck of pancreas, it is related to the opening of stomach, that is pylorus. And in case of posterior relation, we can see in case of posterior relation, we had already discussed in our previous video regarding the portal vein that the formation of portal vein from superior mesenteric vein and splenic vein occurs behind the neck of pancreas and forms the portal vein. So here you can see the portal vein which moves upwards and enter into the porta hepatis. So if you have any doubt regarding the portal vein anatomy, you can check in our previous video. So this is all regarding the neck of pancreas, and this is all regarding the neck of pancreas. In case of two surfaces, the anterior surface is related to the pylorus and posterior surface is related to the formation of portal vein from superior mesenteric vein and splenic vein. This is the body of pancreas. And on cross section, it will be appear in triangular shape and it has three borders: anterior border, superior border and inferior border. And in case of surfaces, we have three surfaces: anterior surface, posterior surface and inferior surface. And we had already discussed regarding the special projection which we can see in the body of pancreas, which is projected a little bit above the superior border of the body of pancreas, that is none other than tuber omental. So now let us see regarding the anterior and inferior relation of pancreas. So this is none other than the root of transverse mesocolon, which is related to the anterior surface. And here we can see the celiac trunk. And already we had seen that the superior mesenteric artery and vein used to pass near the uncinate process. And spleen is located here, mainly lower part of the spleen. And in case of inferior aspect, we can see the duodenojejunal flexure here. And next to it comes the jejunum and also the splenic flexure of colon, you can see here. So these are all the inferior relations. So these forms the anterior and inferior relation. The above one is celiac trunk and here comes the spleen, mainly lower part of the spleen. And here in the anterior surface we have the root of transverse mesocolon. And in the inferior aspect we can see the superior mesenteric vessels which were passing through the uncinate process, and exact inferior relation to the body where duodenojejunal flexure, then jejunum and splenic flexure of colon. Already while discussing regarding the head of pancreas and neck, we had seen regarding the inferior vena cava and also the aorta here. So in case of body of pancreas, the aorta is also related in the posterior aspect. And next comes our left crush of diaphragm. In head of pancreas, we had seen regarding the right crush of diaphragm. And here comes the left crush of diaphragm. And then comes our kidney, left kidney in the posterior aspect. If kidney is related, then along with the kidney, we will be having the left suprarenal gland also. So this is our left suprarenal gland. So and at last, here comes the lower part of the spleen, which is related to the tail of pancreas mainly. And here we will be having the splenic vein related to the body of pancreas and also the splenic arteries. So splenic artery arises directly from the celiac trunk and the splenic vein joins with the superior mesenteric vein and forms the portal vein. So this are regarding the posterior relations. Already we know in head of pancreas, IVC, aorta and right crush of diaphragm. So in case of body, aorta is also related along with the left crush of diaphragm here, and then comes the left kidney and left suprarenal gland. Along with that we have splenic vessels which runs along the posterior surface of the body of pancreas. So here comes our tail of pancreas, this one, and which lies in the left end of pancreas. And here this tail is situated within the lieno-renal ligament. Along with this tail, we will be having the splenic arteries and splenic veins, which is connected to the lower part of the spleen here. So this is all regarding the tail of pancreas. So in case of ducts of pancreas, we have two different ducts. One is major pancreatic duct or main pancreatic duct. Then the second one is accessory pancreatic duct. So here first comes the main pancreatic duct, which is also called as duct of Wirsung. It lies mainly near the posterior surface of pancreas and it is white in color. So we will use white color. And here it begins at the tail and it runs towards the right side through the body of pancreas and it bends near the neck of pancreas downwards and backwards and it enters in the right in the head. So this is how this main pancreatic duct or duct of Wirsung used to pass. And regarding the lumen, it is 3 millimeter in diameter. And here it will be having many small tributaries which were exactly right angle to the long axis of the duct like this. And this pattern is called as herringbone pattern. So when the pancreatic duct enters in the head of pancreas, there comes the bile duct which joins with the pancreatic duct and forms the hepatopancreatic ampulla here. And this is the hepatopancreatic ampulla of Vater which opens with a narrow mouth which is also called as major duodenal papilla. And next comes our accessory pancreatic duct and which is also called as accessory pancreatic duct of Santorini. It arises from the lower part of the head of pancreas like this. And here this opening is called as minor duodenal papilla. So if you want to mention regarding the exact anatomical location of both the papilla, you can measure it from the pyloric opening. So you just imagine this is the pyloric opening, that is the lower end of the stomach. And this minor duodenal papilla would be around 6 to 8 centimeter. And this major duodenal papilla would be around 8 to 10 centimeter away from the pylorus. So now regarding the ducts of pancreas, first comes our main pancreatic duct which is also called as duct of Wirsung. And next comes our accessory pancreatic duct which is also called as duct of Santorini. So here this main pancreatic duct arises from the tail of pancreas and it moves right towards the head of pancreas, and while entering the head of pancreas it gets connected with the bile duct and forms the hepatopancreatic ampulla of Vater, and the opening is called as major duodenal papilla which is around 8 to 10 centimeter away from the pylorus. And now regarding the accessory pancreatic duct or duct of Santorini, here it arises from the head of pancreas, lower part of head of pancreas, and it gets opened in the head of the upper part of the head of pancreas, and this opening is also called as myoduodenal papilla and it is around 6 to 8 centimeter away from the pylorus. So now regarding the arterial supply of pancreas, so here comes our celiac trunk we had seen in some of the relation. So from the celiac trunk there arises the splenic artery which runs behind the pancreas. Just for understanding I am putting it superiorly, and it supplies the pancreatic branches. This forms one of the major. And from the celiac trunk there arises the gastroduodenal artery, and from the gastroduodenal artery there arises our superior pancreatico-duodenal artery. So this forms the second major blood supply of pancreas. And already we had talked regarding the superior mesenteric artery which is also another branch of aorta. Here it will be presenting, and from the superior mesenteric artery we will be having the inferior pancreatico-duodenal artery branches. So these three arteries forms the major blood supply of pancreas. So regarding the arterial supply, the first branch arises from the celiac trunk, that is splenic artery. The splenic artery gives a lot of pancreatic branches, and then the second major blood supply is through the superior pancreatico-duodenal artery, which arises from the gastroduodenal artery. And the third branch arises from the superior mesenteric artery, that is none other than inferior pancreatico-duodenal artery. And mainly this superior pancreatico-duodenal and inferior pancreatico-duodenal artery gets anastomosed together here. So if you have any doubts regarding the anatomy, origin and branches of celiac trunk and superior mesenteric artery, you can check out our previous video. So now regarding the venous drainage, the major venous drainage is through the splenic vein, then superior mesenteric vein, and then regarding the portal vein. So if you have any doubts regarding the portal vein, you can check out our previous video. There in portal vein, we have one tributary, that is superior pancreatico-duodenal vein. And in case of superior mesenteric vein, we have inferior pancreatico-duodenal vein. So both of this drains the blood into the major vessels. So here the major drainage is through the portal vein, splenic vein and superior mesenteric vein. So in case of lymphatic drainage, it will be through pancreatico-splenic lymph nodes, then celiac and superior mesenteric group of lymph nodes. So all these lymph nodes mainly present along the arteries. So in case of nerve supply, we will be having both the sympathetic and parasympathetic supply. So sympathetic supply is through the splenic nerves and parasympathetic is through vagus. And regarding the action of splenic nerve, mainly vasomotor. And in case of parasympathetic activity of vagus, the action is mainly on the pancreatic secretion. And adding to that, this secretion is also influenced by one another hormone, that is cholecystokinin. And this hormone is secreted from the epithelium of duodenum. So this all regarding the nerve supply. Sympathetic activity is through splenic nerve and the action is vasomotor, and parasympathetic is through vagus, mainly secretion, and it is also, the secretion is also influenced by cholecystokinin, which is secreted by the epithelium of duodenum. So now regarding the functions. Already we had seen the function of pancreas in the start. One is endocrine function and another one is exocrine. So as I had already mentioned, this exocrine enzymes have particular action on digestion of protein, carbohydrate and fat. This trypsin acts on the proteins and break down them into peptides. And this amylase acts on starch and glycogen and converts them into disaccharides. And this lipase acts on fat and convert them into fatty acids and glycerol. So now regarding the endocrine action of pancreas, here these endocrine cells are also called as islets of Langerhans. So here we will be having different types of cell. One is alpha cell, the next one beta cell, then comes the delta cell, then at last F cells or PP cells. And now regarding the alpha cells, in case of alpha cell we have two subtypes, one is A1 and A2. So both these are granular and acidophilic in nature. And this A1 cells belong to enterochromaffin group. And these cells secrete pancreatic gastrin and serotonin. And this A2 cells secrete glucagon, which has the action exactly opposite to insulin. So now regarding the beta cells of pancreas. So these cells are granular and basophilic in nature. And it forms the 80% of cell population. And here this beta cells secrete insulin, which helps in the glucose uptake by the cells. Then comes our delta cell, which secretes the hormone somatostatin. With the name itself, you can identify the action of this hormone. Somato is nothing but growth. Statin means there is some stagnation. So this enzyme helps in the inhibition action of growth hormones. And finally, this F cells secrete pancreatic polypeptide. So now regarding the endocrine action, this endocrine cells are also called as islet of Langerhans, and there will be four different types of cells. Alpha cells, they both are granular and acidophilic. A1 will secrete gastrin and serotonin and A2 will secrete glucagon. And beta cells, and this secretes insulin and forms the majority of the cell population. And if there is any problem with the insulin, we will develop the most common lifestyle disorder, that is none other than diabetes mellitus. And there comes the F cells of PP cells, and they will be secreting the pancreatic polypeptide, and delta cells will be secreting somatostatin, which has inhibitory action over the growth hormone. So now regarding the embryonic development of pancreas, here we are having two different buds. So this one is the large dorsal bud, and here we have small ventral bud like this. So this large dorsal bud and the ventral bud fuse to form the pancreas like this way. So dorsal bud mainly contributes for the formation of a part of head, neck, body and tail of pancreas. And this small ventral bud contributes to the formation of inferior part of head of pancreas and uncinate process. So already we had discussed regarding the ducts of pancreas. So now regarding the main pancreatic duct, it opens at the fusion of both the dorsal and the ventral. And this one is accessory pancreatic duct, which opens exactly in the dorsal bud. So with the color you can easily differentiate. This green color belongs to the dorsal bud and this blue color belongs to the ventral bud. So now regarding the developmental anomalies. So if there is any problem in the fusion, first thing we can see is annular pancreas. So because of the failure in the fusion, there will be encircling of pancreas around the second part of duodenum, and this may also lead to the duodenal obstruction. Then comes accessory pancreatic tissue. And this accessory pancreatic tissue, it may be present at various sites like walls of duodenum, jejunum, ileum and Meckel's diverticulum. And at last we can see the inversion of pancreatic duct. So you know, whenever there is any problem in the fusion, this opening may get altered or inverted. So this is all regarding the anatomy of pancreas. So now we will be having a quick recap regarding the pancreas. So pancreas is a gland which is multitasking in activity because it has both the exocrine and endocrine. Exocrine focuses mainly on digestion and endocrine focuses mainly on the secretion of hormone. And it is a soft, lobulated and elongated organ. And now regarding the location. It is situated transversely on the posterior abdominal wall. You can see here the transverse positioning, and it is situated at the level of L1 and L2 vertebra. So now regarding the size and shape, it is a J-shaped or retard-shaped organ, and the length is 15 to 20 centimeter, and the breadth is 2.5 to 3.8 centimeter, and thickness varies from 1.2 to 1.8 centimeter. These things are more and more important in MCQ point of view. And regarding the different parts of pancreas, one is head, and in head we will be having one inferior extension, that is uncinate process, and then comes our neck, which is the most constricted part of the pancreas. Then comes our body here, and this body we will be having one projection which is also called as tubo-omental, and at the end we will be having tail of pancreas. So now regarding the head of pancreas, you can see here, and in head of pancreas we will be having two borders, superior border, right lateral border and inferior border. And in case of surface, the one which we are seeing is the anterior one, and the posterior one is and the posterior surface will be situated behind, and the process one is uncinate process, which we had already discussed. And now let's see regarding the anterior and posterior relationship of head of pancreas. So in case of anterior surface relation, the first one is duodenum, then comes the transverse colon, then comes the jejunum, and here we can see the superior mesenteric vessels. In case of posterior relation, we have aorta here, then comes the left crush of diaphragm, and then comes the inferior vena cava, where the right renal vein and the left renal vein joins to form the inferior vena cava. Then at last comes the bile duct. These were all the relations. So now regarding the neck of pancreas, which is the most constricted part, and here we will be having anterior surface and posterior surface. In case of anterior surface, we will be having pylorus, and in case of posterior surface, we have the portal vein, which is formed by the joining of superior mesenteric vein and splenic vein. Then comes the body of pancreas. In case of body of pancreas, we have three borders. One is anterior, then superior and inferior. And in case of surfaces, we have three, that is anterior, posterior and inferior. Then adding to that, we have one special feature, that is none other than the projection, which is present in the superior border of the pancreas, that is tubo-omental. So now regarding the anterior and inferior relation, we have celiac trunk above, and we have root of transverse mesocolon, which is situated transversely. And in the inferior relation, we have duodenojejunal flexure, then comes jejunum and splenic flexure of colon. And in case of posterior relation, already we had seen regarding the presence of inferior vena cava, right crush of diaphragm, everything in the head of pancreas. And in case of body of pancreas, we have aorta here, then we have right crush of diaphragm, then we will be having both the splenic vessels, then comes the left renal gland and left kidney, which were closely related to the body of pancreas in the posterior aspect. Then comes the tail. Tail is situated in the left end of the pancreas, and it is the only part which is connected to the mesentery, that is linorenal ligament. And here along with the tail, we will be having the splenic vessels, and it is related to the lower part of the spleen. So now regarding the ducts of pancreas, here we will be having two ducts. One is main pancreatic duct of Wirsing, and the second one is accessory pancreatic duct of Santorini. And this duct of Wirsing will be starting from the tail of pancreas, and it heads towards the head of the pancreas. And here the lumen of main pancreatic duct is 3 millimeter, and here we will be having small tributaries, which is situated exactly right angle to the long axis of the main pancreatic duct, which is also called as herringbone pattern, and it gets joined with the bile duct in the head of pancreas, and it creates hepatic hepatopancreatic ampulla of Vater, and this opening is called major duodenal papilla, and anatomically it is 8 to 10 centimeter away from the pylorus. Then comes our accessory pancreatic duct, which arises from the head of the lower part of the head of pancreas, and it moves above and it gets opened as minor duodenal papilla, and this opening is exactly 6 to 8 centimeter away from the pylorus. Arterial supply, it's through the branches of the splenic artery, then through the superior pancreaticoduodenal artery, which arises from the gastroduodenal artery, and this gastroduodenal artery arises from the celiac trunk, and at last through the inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery, which arises from superior mesenteric artery. And then regarding the venous drainage, it's through the superior mesenteric vein, splenic vein, and portal vein situated here. You can see this. And here there will be small tributaries of inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery vein and superior pancreaticoduodenal vein. And in case of lymphatic drainage, we have lymph nodes which are situated along the arteries. Those were pancreatico-splenic lymph nodes, then celiac lymph nodes, and superior mesenteric lymph nodes. Then comes the nerve supply. And in case of nerve supply, we have both the sympathetic and parasympathetic activity. Sympathetic activity is through the splanchnic nerve, and they are vasomotor in action, and parasympathetic is through vagus, and that mainly promotes secretion of pancreas. And this secretion is also governed by cholecystokinin, a hormone which is secreted by the epithelium of duodenum. Now regarding the function, as I had already mentioned, exocrine and endocrine. Exocrine focuses on digestion, and the enzymes are trypsin, amylase, and lipase. Trypsin focuses on protein, which breaks protein into peptides, and amylase breaks starch and glycogen into disaccharides, and lipase breaks fat into fatty acids and glycerol. And then regarding the endocrine action, this endocrine cells which were in the pancreas were also called as islet of Langerhans. Here we are having 4 different types of cells. One is alpha cell. Alpha cell will be granular and acidophilic in nature, and there will be 2 different subtypes, A1 and A2. So alpha 1 is enterochromaffin in nature, and they secrete gastrin and serotonin, and A2 secretes glucagon. Then beta cells, which were granular and basophilic in nature, and it forms the major cell population of endocrine, that is 80%, and it secretes insulin, and whenever there is any problem with the insulin, it leads to the most important lifestyle disorder, that is diabetes mellitus. And delta cells secrete somatostatin, which have inhibitory action towards the growth hormone, and F cells and polypeptide cells, that is pancreatic polypeptide cells, they also secrete pancreatic polypeptide. And embryonic development of pancreas is very interesting. Here it develops from the large dorsal bud, which is green, and a small ventral bud, which is blue, and these two fuse to form the pancreas, and this large dorsal bud gives to the development of head, neck, body, and tail. And this small ventral bud gives rise to the inferior part of the head and uncinate process. You can see here. And regarding the pancreatic duct, this major pancreatic duct opens at the fusion of dorsal and ventral bud, and this accessory pancreatic duct opens at the dorsal bud. And whenever there is any problem with the fusion, it will lead to the annular pancreas, which encircles the second part of duodenum and may also lead to duodenal obstruction. Then accessory pancreatic tissues we can see somewhere else in the GIT, like duodenum, jejunum, ileum, and Meckel's diverticulum. Then comes the inversion of pancreatic duct. As I had told, just because of the fusion between this green and blue, this may lead to the inversion also. So this is all regarding the anatomy of pancreas. So if you have any doubt, just comment below, and if you have any topics for suggestion, that can also be discussed below. Thank you so much and happy learning.